Leverage is one of the most powerful tools in real estate, and it's the reason many people have been able to build wealth without ever paying full price for a property. But in 2025, with interest rates still high and affordability strained, the way investors use leverage is changing. So let's start with the basics. Leverage in real estate means using borrowed money to buy property. Rather than paying the full purchase price in cash, you only put down a small portion, typically 5% to 20%, and borrow the rest from a lender. This allows you to control a large asset with a relatively small investment. For example, let's say you buy a $400,000 home and put down 10%. That's $40,000 of your own money. The remaining $360,000 is financed through a mortgage. If the property appreciates by just 5% in 1 year, it's now worth $420,000. That's a $20,000 gain on your $40,000 investment, or a 50% return. That's the power of leverage. Your gains are amplified because you're earning returns on the full asset value, not just your initial investment. And if you rent that property out and the rental income covers your mortgage, you now have positive cash flow, plus someone else is paying down your loan while you continue to gain equity. But it's important to understand that leverage works both ways. If the property drops in value or you can't make your mortgage payments, you're still responsible for that loan. That's why leverage is often described as a double-edged sword. It can accelerate your wealth, but it can also magnify your losses if used recklessly. And in 2025, that risk feels more real than it did a few years ago, mostly because of interest rates. Back in the 1980s, mortgage rates soared to over 18%, making borrowing extremely expensive. In contrast, from 2010 to 2021, we experienced an era of ultra-low interest, with rates hovering around 3%. That made leverage cheap and easy. People borrowed aggressively, often putting just 3% down, and watched property values soar. But beginning in 2022, everything changed. With inflation rising, the Federal Reserve began hiking interest rates at the fastest pace in decades. By late 2023, mortgage rates peaked at over 7.5%, pricing many buyers out of the market and dramatically increasing the cost of borrowing. Now, in 2025, we're seeing some stabilization. Rates have dipped slightly and are currently averaging around 6.5% to 6.75% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. That's still much higher than the pandemic-era lows, and it means leverage is no longer cheap. This video is brought to you by Homegeeni.com, where you can buy and sell homes without a real estate agent, instantly generate your offer paperwork, and save thousands in commissions. If you're looking to invest smarter, close faster, and keep more of your equity, Homegeeni is your new best friend. Click the link in the description and check us out. So, does leverage still work in this environment? Absolutely, but smart investors are using it differently. Here's how they're adapting in 2025. First, they're making larger down payments. Instead of scraping by with the minimum 3% or 5% down, many investors are putting in 15% to 30%. This lowers their monthly payment, helps them avoid PMI, and gives them instant equity in the property. It also improves their chances of getting mortgage approval and makes them more competitive in a bidding war. In a high-rate environment, this strategy reduces overall risk and improves cash flow from day one. Second, they're prioritizing cash flow over appreciation. In 2021, people assumed home prices would keep rising forever. In 2025, savvy investors know that's no longer guaranteed. They're focusing on properties where the rent covers the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and repairs, with room to spare. Appreciation is seen as a bonus, not a necessity. If the property doesn't cash flow from day one, it's not worth the risk. The numbers need to work now, not just in the future. Third, they're sticking to fixed-rate mortgages. In uncertain times, predictable payments are invaluable. That's why most investors today prefer the 30-year fixed-rate loan. It may cost a little more upfront than an adjustable-rate mortgage, but it protects you from rate hikes in the future. And if rates drop in a few years, you can always refinance. But if they rise again, you'll be glad you locked it in. Fourth, they're getting creative with how they use their properties. One of the most popular strategies right now is house hacking, where the buyer lives in one part of the property and rents out the rest. Think duplexes, basement apartments, or spare rooms. Others are turning to short-term rentals like Airbnb to boost income. These models help offset higher mortgage payments and allow homeowners to build equity without overextending themselves. Fifth, they're using creative financing. Not all leverage comes from banks. In 2025, more investors are exploring Seller financing, where the seller acts as the lender. Subject to deals, where buyers take over the seller's existing mortgage. Home equity loans, used to fund additional purchases. Partnerships, where two or more people pool funds to buy a property together. These strategies reduce reliance on expensive bank financing and allow investors to stay active, even when rates are high. And finally, they're negotiating harder. High rates have pushed many casual buyers to the sidelines. That means sellers are more willing to negotiate. Smart investors are using this to their advantage, asking for price reductions, seller-paid closing costs, or even rate buydowns. In 2025, the real opportunity lies in finding a motivated seller and structuring a win-win deal. So yes, leverage still works in real estate, but in 2025, it takes more planning, more math, and more discipline than ever before. The days of buy anything and watch it go up are over. This is the age of strategic investing, and the people who understand how to use leverage wisely will continue to build wealth while others sit on the sidelines. Also, here at Homegeenie, we cover all things housing. What would you want to learn about next? Let us know in the comments below.